Sarah Chen sat in her small cubicle on the third floor of a government building that most people did not know existed. The Department of Unusual Communications occupied 3 floors of an office tower in downtown Washington, D.C. The sign outside, "Simply read Federal Archives Division, authorized personnel only." Nobody ever asked questions. Sarah took a sip of her coffee and stared at her computer screen. Her job was simple, but boring. She monitored strange signals that various satellites and listening stations picked up. Most days, she logged reports about ghost radio transmissions, unexplained frequency spikes, and conspiracy theorist submissions. In 3 years of work, nothing interesting had ever happened. Until today, the alert on her screen made her sit up straight. Signal type: unknown. Origin: deep space. Pattern: repeating. Mathematical structure: confirmed. Marcus. Sarah called out to her supervisor. Marcus Webb shuffled over to her desk. He was 58 years old with gray hair and tired eyes. He had worked at the DUC for 30 years and was counting down the days until retirement. 23 days left, to be exact. "What is it, Chen?" Marcus asked, adjusting his glasses. "Look at this signal. It came from outside our solar system. And it has structure. Real structure." Marcus leaned closer to the screen. His expression did not change. "Probably another satellite malfunction. Or maybe those kids from MIT are playing pranks again. But the mathematical patterns..." Sarah pulled up another window. "Look, it contains prime number sequences. These look like star charts." Marcus scratched his head. "Run it through the translation software. Standard protocol." Sarah typed quickly. The DUC had software designed to analyze patterns in signals. It was created decades ago by linguists and mathematicians who imagined what alien communication might look like. Nobody really expected to use it. The software worked for 20 minutes. Sarah and Marcus watched the progress bar climb slowly across the screen. Finally, text appeared. "Greetings to the leaders of Earth. We are the Vrin Consensus, representing 47 star systems in peaceful cooperation. We have observed your world and detected signs of technological civilization. We extend this message in friendship and hope for mutual understanding. Please respond through this channel. We await your reply with great interest." Sarah's hands started shaking. "Marcus, this is real. This is actually real." Marcus stared at the screen for a long moment. Then he sighed. "We need to follow protocol." "Protocol, Marcus. This is first contact with aliens, which means we follow protocol." Marcus walked back to his desk and pulled out a thick manual. He flipped through pages until he found what he was looking for. Section 47, subsection C, Unverified Non-Human Intelligence Contact. Step 1. Log the incident. Step 2. Send automated response. Step 3. Notify department heads. Step 4. Wait for instructions. You cannot be serious. I'm always serious about protocol, Chen. Marcus sat down at his computer and began typing. Besides, what if it is a hoax? We look foolish if we call the president over a college prank. Sarah wanted to argue, but she knew Marcus was right. They had to be sure. She watched as Marcus created a new case file. You see, 2847. Then he set up the automated response. Far across the galaxy, Ambassador Kelleth of the Vrin Consensus stood in the communication center of their vessel. Kelleth belonged to a species that looked like tall, slender beings with silver skin and large dark eyes. They had been traveling toward Earth for 3 months after detecting radio signals from the planet. A message has been sent, reported Communications Officer Yenna. We should receive a response within their planetary day cycle. Kelleth felt excited and nervous. First contact was always a delicate moment. The Vrin Consensus had made peaceful contact with 46 other species. They'd learned to be patient and respectful. Every species needed time to process the reality of life beyond their world. Display their world on the main screen, Kelleth ordered. Earth appeared before them. A blue and green planet with white clouds. Kelleth thought it looked beautiful. What do we know about their civilization level? Kelleth asked. Science Officer Thane stepped forward. They have basic space travel capability, nuclear technology, global communication networks. They appear to be in the early stages of planetary unity. We estimate they are perhaps 50 to 100 years from joining the galactic community naturally. Good, Keleth said. That means they are ready for contact. Have you identified their central government? Thane hesitated. That is complicated. They appear to have multiple governmental structures. Nearly 200 separate nations, each with different leaders. Keleth frowned. 200. That is unusual. There must be a central authority. A planetary council or federation? We are still analyzing their communication patterns to identify the proper authority to contact. A soft beep interrupted them. Yenna looked at her console in surprise. Ambassador, we have received a response. That was very fast. Excellent. Display it. Text appeared on the screen. Keleth read it twice, then a third time. Thank you for contacting the Department of Unusual Communications. Your inquiry has been logged under case number, EC2847. A specialist will review your message and respond within 4 to 6 business weeks. If this is an urgent matter, please press 2. For technical support, please press 3. To repeat this message, please press 4. Silence filled the Vryn command center. What is a business week? Yenna asked quietly. Keleth stared at the message. In all their experience with First Contact, nothing like this had ever happened. They had reached out to what should be Earth's most important leaders. Instead, they received what appeared to be an automated message from something called a department. Dane Keleth said slowly, Are you certain we contacted their central government? I will verify the communication channels immediately. Keleth read the message again. 4 to 6 business weeks. They had traveled across the galaxy to make peaceful contact with a new species. They had crafted their message carefully, showing friendship and respect, and Earth's response was to tell them to wait and press 2 for urgent matters. Press 2, Keleth ordered. Yenna pressed the corresponding command. Another message appeared. Jeff selected urgent matters. Please hold. Your call is important to us. Current wait time, approximately 45 minutes. Music began playing through the communication system. Keleth recognized it as a primitive form of audio entertainment. The ambassador of the Vryn Consensus, representative of 47 star systems and numerous advanced civilizations, sat down heavily in their command chair. This was not going according to plan. Part 2. The bureaucratic Abyss ambassador Keleth did not sleep well that night. The Vryn had waited on hold for 45 minutes, only to be disconnected. 3 more attempts to contact Earth's Department of Unusual Communications resulted in busy signals, more hold music, and 1 message saying the office was closed for the weekend. This is impossible, Keleth said to the command crew the next morning. They must have a proper governmental authority. Thane, have you identified Earth's central leadership?
Science Officer Thane looked uncomfortable. Ambassador, I have troubling news.
Earth does not appear to have a central government. It cannot be correct. They have global communication systems, space stations. How can they coordinate without central authority? They do not coordinate, Ambassador, at least not in any way we understand. Thane displayed a complex chart on the main screen. There are 193 separate nations. Each has its own government. Above them is something called the United Nations, but it has no real authority. It is more of a discussion forum. Keleth stared at the chart. Then who do we contact for official first contact? I have identified several possibilities. There is an organization called NASA that handles space exploration for one large nation. There is a State Department that handles foreign relations. And there are various military commands. Contact all of them, Keleth ordered. Surely one of them is the proper authority. Over the next 3 days, the Vryn sent carefully crafted messages to every major organization they could identify on Earth. The results were frustrating. NASA responded first. Thank you for your interest in space exploration. NASA is a civilian space agency and does not have authority over first contact protocols. Please contact the U.S. Department of State for diplomatic matters. The State Department replied, Your message has been forwarded to the United Nations, Office for Outer Space Affairs, as they handle matters related to international space law and potential extraterrestrial contact. 8. The United Nations responded, To properly process your request for diplomatic contact, Please submit Form E847 petition for recognition as non-state entity. Processing time is typically 6 to 8 months. Please note that recognition requires approval from the Security Council. That message included a 200-page form that needed to be filled out in triplicate. The final message came from the Department of Unusual Communications again. We notice you have contacted multiple agencies. For efficiency, please direct all communications through case number. You see 2847. Duplicate inquiries may delay processing time. Kelleth felt something they had never experienced during first contact before: complete confusion. Meanwhile, Atisse Sarah Chen was having the strangest week of her life. She had confirmed the signal was real. Marcus leaned back in his chair. That's interesting. But I should tell you, we've kind of already thought about all this. What do you mean? Sarah pulled up another document. We've been thinking about alien contact for a long time. Look, here are some of our cultural references. She showed book covers and movie posters. First contact scenarios are pretty common in our entertainment and scientific discussions. Kelleth had seen some of these during Thane's research. Most showed violence and destruction. We know these show conflicts, Sarah continued, but they've made us think about things. What if aliens are hostile? What if they want our resources? What if they're trying to help but we're not ready? We've imagined a lot of possibilities. But imagination and reality are different, Kelleth argued. Sure, Marcus agreed. But here's the thing. You're worried about us being vulnerable because we're not unified. We're worried about being vulnerable for the same reason you should be worried about us. I do not understand. Marcus stood and walked to a whiteboard in his office. He drew a simple diagram. Most species you've contacted probably had unified governments, right? One central authority that speaks for the whole planet. Yes, it is the natural evolution of civilization. Well, we went a different direction. Marcus drew multiple circles on the board. We have nearly 200 independent nations, thousands of different cultures, millions of independent organizations, and here's the key part. They all do their own thing. It sounds like chaos. Is chaos, Marcus agreed cheerfully. But it's organized chaos. See, if you wanted to invade Earth, you couldn't just take over one government and control the whole planet. You'd have to deal with every single nation separately. And if you managed that, you'd still have to deal with corporations, criminal organizations, independent militias, and some very angry citizens with guns. Kelleth felt cold. You are describing your political fragmentation as a defensive strategy. Not on purpose, Sarah said. It just worked out that way. But yeah, we're really hard to conquer because there's no central point of failure. It's really hard to organize, James added. Which is why it took us a week to set up this meeting. Kelleth sat down, their mind racing. The Vryn had assumed Earth's political division was a weakness. They had never considered it might be a strength. There is another concern, Kelleth said. We have been monitoring your communications. Multiple nations are building weapons. Some are moving military assets to space-capable positions. Are you preparing for war? Oh, that. Marcus waved his hand dismissively. That's just standard procedure. Anytime something big happens, somebody builds a weapon. Don't worry about it. Do not worry about weapons. Look, here's how humans work, Marcus explained. When we encounter something unknown, we try 3 things at the same time. Some of us try to make friends. Some of us try to make money. And some of us build weapons just in case. It's not personal. Sarah nodded. Right now there are at least 5 different nations trying to figure out how to build spaceships to visit you. There are probably 20 companies designing products to trade with you. And yes, a few militaries are developing contingency plans. We do all of it at once. That is insane, Thane said from off-screen. Yeah, Marcus agreed. But it works for us. Kelleth looked at their crew. Every Vryn officer looked as shocked as Kelleth felt. They had made first contact with dozens of species, and every one had been logical, organized, and predictable. Humans were none of those things. Ambassador, Yenna whispered. I am detecting multiple new signals from Earth. Private organizations are trying to contact us. Some are offering trade agreements. One is inviting us to something called a podcast.
What is a podcast?
I do not know. Keleth turned back to the video screen. How many different groups on Earth are aware of our contact? Marcus and Sarah looked at each other. Well, Sarah said slowly, the news leaked yesterday. So basically everyone. Everyone. About 8 billion people? Yeah. It's trending on social media. There are some really good memes, actually. Keleth felt panic rising. In proper first contact, information was controlled carefully. Leaders met privately, made plans, and only then informed their populations. Earth had just told 8 billion people at once. Are they panicking? Keleth asked desperately. Are there riots? Chaos? Nah, Marcus said. Mostly, people are just excited. There's a betting pool about what you look like. And some debates about whether this is good or bad, but everyone's pretty calm. Your world just learned aliens exist and people are calm? We've been expecting you, Sarah said simply. I mean, statistically, we figured aliens had to exist somewhere. Now we know for sure. It's cool. Keleth looked at Earth on their monitors. The planet continued spinning peacefully. Cities glowed with lights. Vehicles moved along roads. Everything looked normal. These humans had just learned they were not alone in the universe, and they were making memes about it. I think, Keleth said slowly, we may have made a terrible mistake. What do you mean? Marcus asked. We thought you needed guidance, protection, but I am starting to think the galaxy needs protection from you. Marcus grinned. Yeah, we get that a lot. Part 4. The hidden truth science officer Thane could not sleep. Something about Earth bothered them deeply. The conversation with the Department of Unusual Communications had been disturbing. But Thane could not identify exactly why. At 3 a.m. ship time, Thane sat alone in the research center. Reviewing everything they had learned about Earth, the more Thane studied, the more concerned they became. Computer. Display all information about the Department of Unusual Communications. Thane ordered. Files appeared on the screen. The DUC was a small government agency with only 43 employees. Its budget was tiny compared to other departments. Its stated purpose was to monitor and catalog unusual signals and communications that did not fit normal categories. It seemed unimportant. Boring even. But something felt wrong. Computer, search for other instances of unusual signals received by Earth before our contact. The computer worked for several minutes. Then data began flooding the screen. Thane's eyes widened. The DUC had logged over 300 unusual signals in the past 30 years. Most were classified as natural phenomena or human-made interference. But 17 signals had been marked with a special code, potential non-human origin. 17 signals. The Vrin were not the first to contact Earth. They were at least the 18th. Computer. Why did Earth not respond to previous signals? The computer displayed classified files that Thane had carefully accessed through Earth's poorly secured networks. Internal DUC memos appeared. Thane read them with growing horror. Signal shows signs of intelligence, but hostile intent cannot be ruled out. Recommend observation only. Contact attempt appears peaceful, but requesting information about our defensive capabilities. Recommend no response. Signal includes mathematical patterns, but also seems to be scanning our communication networks. Recommend no response and enhanced security protocols. Earth had been contacted before, and every single time, they had chosen not to respond. They had been watching, learning, studying, until now. Why did they respond to us? Thane wondered aloud. The answer hit them like a physical blow. The Vrin had seemed safe, non-threatening, peaceful. Earth had finally chosen to respond because the Vrin appeared to be the kind of aliens humanity could handle. It was a test, and the Vrin had walked right into it. Thane immediately contacted Ambassador Keleth. Ambassador, wake up. We have a serious problem. 20 minutes later, the entire command crew sat in the briefing room as Thane explained what they had discovered. The Department of Unusual Communications is not what it appears, Thane said. It was not created for bureaucracy. It was created for plausible deniability, explained Keleth demanded. Think about how they acted during our video conference. Casual, disorganized, almost incompetent. But look at what they actually accomplished. Thane displayed notes from the meeting. They assessed our technology level. They evaluated our intentions. They measured our response to chaos and unpredictability. And they did it all while appearing completely harmless. They were studying us, Yenna said quietly. Yes. And I have discovered that Marcus Webb is not just a bureaucrat. Before joining the DUC, he worked for something called Defense Intelligence Agency for 20 years. He specializes in first contact scenarios and threat assessment. Kelleth felt sick. So the confusion, the bureaucracy, the casual attitude, it was all an act. Not entirely, Thane said. I believe the bureaucracy is real, but it serves a purpose. While we were frustrated by automated messages and hold music, Earth's various intelligence agencies were analyzing everything about us. Our language, our technology, our intentions. That is deceptive. That is smart, Thane corrected. They made us think they were unprepared and chaotic. But the truth is, they have been preparing for this moment for decades. And their chaos is intentional. Another officer spoke up. But why? Why pretend to be disorganized? Because it makes them unpredictable, Kelleth said, understanding dawning. We have been trying to apply our standard first contact protocols. But every time we think we understand them, they do something unexpected. It is a defensive strategy. They nodded. I've also discovered something else. There are at least 12 different human organizations now planning missions to our space. Some are government agencies, some are private companies. One is apparently a religious group that wants to convert us to their belief system. They cannot do that. Kelleth protested. They do not have the technology for interstellar travel. Not yet. But I have reviewed their technological progression. Ambassador, they went from first powered flight to landing on their moon in 66 years. They are developing faster than any species we have ever encountered. And they are not waiting for permission. Multiple groups are working independently. Yenna pulled up new data. Ambassador, I have been monitoring Earth's internet as you ordered. In the past 3 days since the contact became public, there have been over 10 million posts about us. Humans are analyzing everything. Our ship design, our language patterns, our possible weaknesses. They are crowdsourcing, intelligence gathering. Show me. The screen filled with human forum posts, blog articles, and social media discussions. What if they are pretending to be peaceful to study us? One post asked. Their ships use a lot of energy. That could be a weakness, another suggested. Has anyone noticed they keep asking about our government structure? Maybe they want to find our vulnerabilities. One post that Thane highlighted was particularly disturbing. Guys, I think we scared them. They thought we would panic when they showed up. Instead, we barely reacted. They probably expected to be the scary aliens, but we have been imagining scarier aliens for decades. The Vrins seem almost ... cute. Kelleth stood abruptly. We need to contact Earth again. We need to speak with Marcus Webb directly. The call connected quickly. Marcus appeared on screen, this time wearing a different wrinkled shirt. He was drinking coffee. Ambassador Kelleth. What can I do for you? I want the truth, Marcus Webb. The Department of Unusual Communications is not a simple bureaucratic office. You have been preparing for this contact. Marcus smiled slightly. Took you long enough to figure that out, so it was all deception? Not deception. Caution. Marcus set down his coffee. Let me ask you something, Ambassador. If you had contacted Earth 50 years ago, what would have happened? We would have guided you toward peaceful development as we have done with other species. Maybe you would have taken advantage of us. We had no way to know. Marcus leaned forward. So we made a choice. Every time we received a signal that might be aliens, we watched and learned instead of responding. We studied every signal. We built contingency plans. We prepared. You were afraid of us. You were careful, Marcus corrected. There's a difference. And when your signal came, we had enough information to make a decision. The Vrins seemed safe enough to contact. Safe enough? You were not scanning our defenses. You were not asking about our resources. You were sending friendship messages and waiting patiently for a response, so we decided to take the risk. Sarah Chen appeared next to Marcus. But we also needed to know if you could handle us. So we showed you what we really are: chaotic, divided, unpredictable, and stubborn. If that scared you away, then you were not ready to deal with humanity. Keleth felt a chill. This was another test. Everything is a test, Marcus said. That is how we survive. We test, we learn, we adapt. And if we had been hostile, Keleth asked, if we had come with weapons instead of peace. Marcus's expression became serious. Then you would have discovered that our chaos is also our strength. You cannot conquer a species that has no central government to overthrow. You cannot threaten people who have already imagined every nightmare scenario. And you definitely cannot predict what we will do next, because honestly, we do not even know. Thane spoke from off-screen. We have intercepted military communications. Multiple nations are preparing defensive measures. Some are quite sophisticated. Of course they are, Sarah said. We are friendly, but we are not stupid. Until we know you better, we prepare for every possibility. Is any of this real? Keleth asked quietly. The friendship. The offer to join the galactic community? Or are you just manipulating us? Marcus's expression softened. It is real, Ambassador. We genuinely want to be friends. But friendship requires honesty. And honestly, we are not like other species you have met. We are messy, chaotic, and suspicious. But we are also curious, adaptable, and loyal once you earn our trust. So what happens now? Now, we move forward, Marcus said. You wanted to welcome us to the galaxy? Great, we would love to learn from you. Share technology. Exchange culture. But it happens on equal terms. We are not children who need guidance. We are partners who bring our own strengths to the table. Keleth looked at their crew. Every Vryn officer looked uncertain. They had come to guide and protect humanity. Instead, they had discovered a species that had been preparing for them all along. I need to consult with the Vryn consensus, Keleth said finally. Take your time, Marcus said. We have waited this long. We can wait a bit longer. But Ambassador, whatever you decide, make it soon. Because whether you are ready or not, humanity is coming to the stars, and we would prefer to arrive as friends. The call ended. Keleth sat in their command chair, staring at Earth on the main screen. The planet looked exactly the same as before. Beautiful and peaceful. But now Keleth knew the truth. Beneath that peaceful surface lived 8 billion unpredictable, chaotic, brilliant, terrifying humans who had been preparing for this moment longer than the Vryn had suspected. Send a message to the consensus, Keleth ordered. Priority Alpha. Tell them we need new protocols. The standard first contact approach will not work with humanity. What should I tell them? Yenna asked. Keleth thought for a long moment. Tell them we have discovered a species that treats first contact like a strategy game they have been practicing for a century. Tell them humanity is going to change the galaxy, whether we are ready or not. And tell them we need to decide very quickly if we want humans as friends, or if we want to spend the next few centuries trying to predict what they will do next. The message was sent, and on Earth. Marcus Webb finished his coffee and smiled. They took it well, Sarah said. They had no choice, Marcus replied. Now we see if they are smart enough to work with us, or foolish enough to try controlling us. What do you think they will choose? Marcus looked at his computer screen, where reports were flowing in from around the world. A tech company in California had announced a faster-than-light research program. A space agency in India was preparing a probe to study the Vryn ship. And somewhere in Texas, a group of enthusiasts were building their own radio transmitter to send messages to other aliens. I think, Marcus said, they will choose friendship. Because the alternative is trying to contain humanity. And that is a fight nobody can win. Part 5. The new paradigm. The Vryn consensus met for 3 days. 47 star systems, each with their own representatives, debated what to do about humanity. Some argued for immediate withdrawal. Others wanted strict monitoring. A few suggested humanity should be contained before they became a threat. Ambassador Kelleth listened to all arguments. Then they stood to speak. Honored members of the consensus, Kelleth began. I have made first contact with 23 species in my career. Each time, we followed the same process. We arrived as guides and teachers. We offered technology and wisdom. We welcomed them into our galactic family. And it worked. Kelleth paused. But humanity is different. They do not want to be guided. They do not need to be taught like children. And most importantly, they cannot be contained. We have 3 choices: become their friends, become their rivals, or become irrelevant. I propose friendship. Why? Demanded a representative from the Kelver system. You yourself reported they are chaotic, unpredictable, and potentially dangerous. They are all those things, Kelleth agreed. But they are also curious, creative, and adaptable in ways we have never encountered. They think differently than any species in the consensus. And that difference is valuable. Valuable how? When was the last time someone in the consensus invented something truly new? Kelleth asked. When did we last solve a problem in an unexpected way? We are successful because we are organized, logical, and predictable. But we have also become ... stagnant. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Humanity is chaos, Kelleth continued. But chaos creates new possibilities. They approach problems from directions we would never consider. They combine ideas in strange ways. They fail often, but when they succeed brilliantly. If we try to control that creativity, we will destroy what makes them valuable. If we fear that creativity, we will make enemies of potential friends. But if we embrace it, we all benefit. The debate continued, but slowly, the consensus reached agreement. They would engage with humanity fully. No restrictions. No guidance. No control. Just partnership between equals. 5 days after the first video conference, Ambassador Kelleth called Marcus Webb again. Marcus, the Vryn consensus has made a decision. We want to establish full diplomatic relations with Earth. Marcus smiled. That is great news, Ambassador. But we do this differently than our usual first contact process. We are not here to guide you. We want to work with you as partners. We appreciate that. We offer technology sharing, cultural exchange, and access to the galactic community. In return, we hope to learn from you. Your creativity, your adaptability, your different way of thinking. We believe humanity will bring something new to the galaxy. Sarah Chen leaned into the camera. What exactly are you proposing? Everything, Kelleth said. We propose exchange programs where your scientists work with ours. We want human artists to share your culture with the galaxy. We want to understand your chaos and see if we can learn from it. We want to establish trade, communication, and friendship. That sounds perfect, Marcus said. But I should warn you, it will be messy. We have nearly 200 nations, remember? Each one will want their own agreements. And then there are the companies, organizations, and individuals who will all want to interact with you. We understand. We are prepared for the chaos. Marcus grinned. No, you are not. But you will learn. When can we start? Immediately, if you agree. We can begin with a small exchange program. We send some of our people to Earth. You send some of your people to our ship. We learn about each other in person. Sarah and Marcus looked at each other. We will need to set that up officially, Sarah said. Give us 2 weeks to coordinate with other agencies and select participants. 2 weeks is acceptable. After the call ended, Thane approached Kelleth. Ambassador, are you certain about this? Humans are still unpredictable. That is exactly why I am certain, Kelleth replied. For 10,000 years, the Vryn consensus has grown by absorbing species similar to us. Logical, organized, peaceful. We have built a stable, prosperous civilization. But we have also become predictable. Every problem is solved the same way. Every decision follows the same process. Humanity will shake that up. That could be dangerous. Or it could be exactly what we need. 6 months later, the first exchange program was in full operation. 12 human scientists lived aboard the Vrin flagship, working alongside Vrin researchers. 8 Vrin diplomats had established an embassy in New York City. The results were both fascinating and chaotic. Dr. Jennifer Park, a human physicist, was in the middle of explaining her theory to a group of confused Vrin scientists. See, if we approach the energy problem from this angle, Jennifer drew rapid diagrams on a whiteboard. We can skip 3 steps of your standard process. But those steps ensure safety, a Vrin scientist protested. Sure, they make it safer, but they also make it slower and more expensive. My way is riskier, but if it works, we cut energy consumption by 40%. And if it does not work, then we learn something new and try again. That is how science works. The Vrin scientists looked uncomfortable. In their culture, failure was avoided at all costs. Experiments were planned carefully to ensure success. The idea of deliberately taking risks seemed wrong, but Jennifer's approach worked. Her risky experiment succeeded, and suddenly, Vrin energy systems became 40% more efficient. Other human scientists were having similar impacts, solving old problems with new approaches. Meanwhile, on Earth, the Vrin were having their own learning experience. Ambassador Kelleth stood in a New York City street, overwhelmed by the noise and chaos. Thousands of humans rushed past, all moving in different directions. Street vendors sold food. Musicians played instruments. Cars honked. People shouted, "How do you function in this chaos?" Kelleth asked Sarah, who was giving them a tour. "We are used to it," Sarah said. "This is normal for us." But there is no order. No coordination. Sure there is. Watch. Sarah pointed to an intersection. See? The traffic light turns red. Everyone stops. It turns green. Everyone goes. Simple coordination. But what about all the other activity? The vendors, the musicians, the people walking everywhere. That is just life happening. Everyone doing their own thing. It works out. Kelleth watched a street musician playing guitar while a businessman hurried past. Talking on a phone while a family stopped to take pictures. All of it happening simultaneously in organized chaos. "This is beautiful," Kelleth said suddenly. Sarah looked surprised. "Really? Most aliens find it overwhelming." It is overwhelming. But it is also alive, dynamic. Every person making their own choices, all existing together. This is what we have been missing. At the Vrin embassy, other experiences were equally enlightening. Vrin diplomats learned about human food, which was wildly diverse and often unpredictable. They discovered human music, which broke rules the Vrin thought were universal. They experienced human art, which sometimes made no logical sense but still created powerful emotions. 1. Vrin cultural officer sent a report back to the consensus. Humans have a concept called jazz improvisation. Musicians play together without planning what notes they will use. Each person responds to what others play, creating music spontaneously. It should not work. By all logical analysis, it should be chaos. But somehow, it creates beauty. I think this is the key to understanding humanity. They improvise their entire civilization. Back on the Vrin flagship, Dr. James Kim was teaching a class on human problem-solving to Vrin officers. "The key difference," James explained, "is that we try everything. You plan carefully and execute one solution. We try 5 solutions at once, expect 3 to fail, and learn from all of them. That is inefficient," an officer observed. "In the short term, yes. But in the long term, we learn faster because we are not afraid of failure. Failure gives us information." A Vrin student raised their hand. "But does that not waste resources?" "Sometimes, but it also means we find unexpected solutions. Let me give you an example. When we were developing space travel, different nations tried different approaches. Some failed. Some succeeded. But because multiple groups tried different methods, we advanced faster than if everyone had used the same approach. Redundancy is strategy, the Vrin student said thoughtfully. Exactly. If one approach fails, 10 others continue. You cannot stop human progress because there is no single point of failure. News of the exchange program spread across the galaxy. Other species in the Vryn consensus became curious about these strange humans. Some were nervous. Others were excited. Everyone wanted to know what would happen next. Marcus Webb sat in his office, now significantly larger than before. The DUC had been expanded and renamed the Department of Interstellar Relations. Sarah Chen was now Director of First Contact Operations. James Kim had gone to space as part of the exchange program. Marcus looked at his retirement papers, which he had filled out months ago but never submitted. He smiled and put them in a drawer. "Too interesting to leave now," he muttered. An alert appeared on his screen. New signal detected. Unknown origin. Different from Vryn communication patterns. Marcus smiled wider. Another species trying to contact Earth? He opened a new case file. "UC 3001, here we go again," he said, and began typing the standard response. On the Vryn flagship, Ambassador Kelleth stood on the observation deck with Dr. Jennifer Park. They watched Earth rotating below. "Do you know what I have learned in 6 months with humans?" Kelleth asked. "What?" "That order and chaos are not opposites. They can exist together. Your chaos is not random. It has patterns. But those patterns are complex and adaptive. You do not follow rules rigidly. You bend them, test them, and sometimes break them to find better ways." Jennifer nodded. "Yeah, we're pretty good at creative rule breaking. The galaxy has been orderly for a long time. Predictable, safe, but also ... boring. Humanity is going to change that. Is that good or bad?" "I think it is necessary," Kelleth said. "Civilizations that never change eventually stagnate. We need new ideas, new energy, new chaos. You are going to make the galaxy uncomfortable, but you will also make it better." Jennifer grinned. "So we are like the galaxy's wake-up call." "Something like that." Far below, Earth continued its rotation. Lights from cities glowed against the darkness. Satellites orbited. Ships launched. Messages transmitted. 8 billion humans continued their chaotic, creative, unpredictable lives. And somewhere in Texas, a group of enthusiasts successfully tested their homemade radio transmitter and sent a message to deep space. "Hello out there. Earth here. We come in peace. Also, we have questions." So many questions. The message traveled outward at the speed of light, carrying humanity's enthusiasm, curiosity, and chaos toward whatever might be listening. The galaxy would never be the same. Back in his office, Marcus Webb finished setting up the new case file and leaned back in his chair. His phone rang. It was the State Department with questions. Then NASA called with technical concerns. Then someone from the UN wanted to schedule a meeting. Marcus answered each call with patient professionalism, coordinating the beautiful chaos of humanity's entrance onto the galactic stage. His coffee had gone cold again. He took a sip anyway and smiled. This was exactly what he had spent 30 years preparing for. And it was just the beginning. The Department of Interstellar Relations had a new motto now. It's displayed on a plaque behind Marcus's desk. It read, "We're still not sure what we're doing, but we're doing it anyway." Ambassador Kelleth had laughed the first time they saw it. Then they had asked for a translation to take back to the Vryn consensus. It was, Kelleth decided, the most perfect summary of humanity they had ever encountered. And in that chaos, that uncertainty, that stubborn determination to move forward despite not having all the answers, the galaxy found something it had been missing for thousands of years: hope that something new was possible.